Let us have a look at different ways of looking at upon project status or project state. I will present traditional way of evaluating project state and modern way of evaluating project state. I will only show you 3 ways. There may be many more ways of doing it, but I just want to help you to see the difference. Okay, so as I said, there are many ways of measuring the project status, and some of them will be shown within this course, and one way is only one of the ways within traditional development. Let us assume that we have a process model, and this process model consists of phases. Here we have phases like feasibility study, requirements analysis, prototype development, design study, requirement specification. So what we always do, we break down our process to some phases or basic activities, where each activity has some output which is input to the next activity or phase. All these activities end with some kind of milestones. So a milestone is an end point of a software process activity, and at this milestone there should be some output, some deliverable that is input to the next phase. So if we conduct feasibility study means that we are checking whether it is feasible to develop a new software system, then it should end with a feasibility report. If the feasibility report shows that it is not feasible, then we will probably not continue with the next phase. If, on the other hand, the feasibility report shows that it is possible, then we will continue with requirements analysis, and so on and so on. Here we have another approach, which is stage gate approach, quite adopted by software industry, where you have different stages. They are correspondences to phases. You may call them whatever you want to, and then each stage is separated by gates. So at each gate you have some output, and based on that output you make decisions whether to continue or not. And of course the decision may depend on many things. It may depend on the quality of the system, on the resources available, on the status of competitors. Let us say that you are almost done with prototyping of a certain system, but you have realized that you won't be able to fight with the competitors because they were much more ahead of you, and then you may simply terminate the project. Here I have an example of an industrial stage gate process taken from the internet. I will not discuss it, you may study it on your own. So in traditional development, project status is measured somewhere at the end of each phase, or when you reach some gate. But what is interesting, I want you to remember that it is based on measuring the process. So the process itself is the basis for measuring the project status. So you see how your project has progressed by studying the process. Okay, so let's continue with the modern way. One of the ways, again, because there may be many, what you do is you use game cards and you play games. Here, before starting it, I would like to tell you that when you are managing babies or the state and health of babies, you have to have some kind of a checklist. The baby sleeps, eats, grows, crawls, socializes. But when you follow this checklist, you may not notice some hidden problems. The baby might have high blood sugar. It might have blood pressure. I don't think babies have high blood pressures, but they may have. They may have heart problems. And by using the traditional process of only managing the daily things does not help you to discover all these hidden problems. Therefore, CMAT or Essence has come up with essential things. I have presented essential things to you on the former lecture. And when you measure the progress of the essential things, you measure when you measure the progress of the project, you measure the progress of each such essential thing. Before discussing it, however, I'd like you to notice that each such essential thing has a special symbol. Doesn't it look like a fish? Well, it's not a fish actually. What we want to represent with it is an alpha, a Greek letter. And it's actually called, each essential thing is called alpha. And alpha is an acronym of Abstract Level Progress Health Attribute, which is an essential element in software engineering endeavor. And it is important, each such alpha is important for progress and health of this endeavor. Endeavor, this is a synonym to project. So each such alpha, requirement, software system, consists of states. So every alpha has states, but for every state you have a checklist of things that must be accomplished so that you can pass this state and come to another state. So here I have a requirements alpha, and we have some status names for this requirements alpha. And let us have a look at the conceived state. The definition of the conceived state says that the need for a new system has been agreed, and in order to pass that state you have to make sure that the initial set of stakeholders agrees that a new system is to be produced. You have to make sure that the stakeholders that will use the system are identified. What is the point of developing a software system when there is no one who will develop the software system? The stakeholders that will fund the initial work must be identified. You cannot develop if you do not have money. And that there is a clear opportunity for the new system to address. There must always be opportunity. That's why opportunity is so important. Each such checklist you will be given such a checklist in a textual form, and it will be on the course website. And I know you cannot read this because it's too little. However, let us go to a bigger slide on the next page. You can see that I have two columns. In the first column I have abbreviated versions of the full checklist item. So here the initial set of stakeholders agrees that the system to be produced. This is a full checklist item, but it is also abbreviated. It is also abbreviated to stakeholders agree system is to be produced. Why do we have it in an abbreviated form? Well, this is because we try to help practitioners, students, whoever develops software, to use cards, gaming cards, and play games in order to define the status of the project. So each alpha is represented as a set of cards where each card represents a certain status. And on this status card, like conceived, you have all these checklist items. And that's why they have been abbreviated, because otherwise you could not squeeze them on one card. And the meaning is that you have these cards in your pocket so that you can easily take them out and see what is the project status. So one card represents a state of one alpha. And how do we work with them? Well, each alpha, as you can see, have a set of cards with a specific status, and what you may do, you may either spread them like that on the wall or on a table and try to estimate or evaluate the project status by studying where in the requirement status you are, where in the software system you are, and etc., etc. And you do this by having special tools. So your tools are requirements checklist, full checklist, or requirements cards. The cards have, of course, the same information as the full checklist, but it may happen that sometimes the checklist items may be too much abbreviated, and that's why you may need to go to the full checklist. Okay, so how does it work? Let us put all our cards on the table. I don't have space for all the cards here, but let us put some of them. And here the dots mean that you may continue with the remaining cards. And now we will decide where we are in the project. So what we do is that we shuffle the cards to the left, those that have been completed, where we have checked off the checklist items, and we shuffle the cards that we are not ready with to the right. They are in the pending condition. So here we have some cards. Okay, so now this is our status, and this means that the first cards to the right are the cards that we have to attend to now. So we have to go to the next status here. So the card to the left, the first card to the left, is the card that we are done with. It has been checked off. And now the card to the right is the card that we have to attend to. So for instance, we have checked off all these bullets here, but we know that the stakeholder representatives do not still assist the teams in according with their responsibilities, so we have to make sure that this is fulfilled before we can, and the other bullets here as well, before we can go to the next state. Okay, the next way of representing project status is by using post-it notes. And you may do it in many ways. I will go through this during later lectures. Right now we are happy with showing you that you use post-it notes. These post-it notes are hang on informative workspaces or tables or walls or whatever. So the meaning here is that you hang all the information on these post-it notes so that all the information about the project is easy to see. When you go into the room, you can grasp the status of the project by just watching on the walls. So, okay, this is it.